Hello and welcome to Catholic Answers Live, the big end-of-year show, the end-of-year extravaganza, so to speak. I think we should call it something like, finally 2025 is over, or my God, I thought it would never end, or something like that. I don't know. I'm just kidding. 2025 wasn't a bad year, I don't think. We'll find out from the Flannel Panel what they think. We like to close the year with the Flannel Panel. Chris Check, president of Flannel Panel. He is the president of Flannel Panel, but what I meant to say is president of Catholic Answers, and Joe Heschmeyer, apologist here at Catholic Answers. Hello, gentlemen.
Cy, this is my first time in the new studio.
Yeah.
The new design.
What do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, it looks good. Edgar did it.
And I
He did a good
also
job.
am very happy that it's no longer an OSHA hazard to walk inside the studio.
It's amazing. You can
You-
just
you-
walk straight
you
to your
can
seat
walk
without
and-
having to fight your way through
or
cables.
or risk dying tripping over something.
How's it look on screen, Joe? How do we look?
It looks great. It's nice and open. You can see it. Fulton Sheen.
Yep, there's Fulton Sheen.
There's the Pieta.
Oh, did you hear the
it's
thing about
lovely.
Fulton Sheen? Did you say this on the air already?
No, what happened with Fulton Sheen?
The day that we debuted,
no, I
the
didn't
day
say-
that we debuted the new studio is the anniversary of his death.
Yeah, and we've got him prominently right there.
Who even knew that? God knew
God
that.
knew, and
Yep.
Fulton knew,
Yes.
but we didn't know. So the first day we featured him was the anniversary of his death, December 9th. All right, I sent you guys. Usually, what we've done, we've polled our listeners, and we've asked them what were the big stories of the year, but. Frankly, that was a lot of work, and I found an easier way to do it. I just asked ChatGPT what were the big stories of the year. I said, what were the big Catholic stories of the year, and what were the big secular stories of the year? And so,
Are you saying AI is replacing our listeners?
I think
Is that-
we were
it's
worried
replacing everything.
that it would replace the host, but
Yes.
it's just going to replace the audience
Yeah.
now. We've moved on from it, from the audience. We're just doing this for the AI now. And then Luke looked at my stories. Luke Bender, who came to Catholic Answers this year, our YouTube genius. He looked at my stories and he saw a theme, and I thought it was a pretty good theme that he picked up. He said Catholics won the internet. Did I get that theme right, Luke? Is that Catholics won the internet in 2025? What do you guys think of that theme for the year? This was.
I think we should explore it.
Well-
I think it'll be good. It'll be good to explore.
Okay, so you're not quite sure that that's true. I can see.
I mean,
How do you?
I think
What does win?
what does it mean to win the
Yeah,
internet?
yeah, win.
We'll see. We'll see.
Wait, what does it mean to win the internet? That seems quite clear to me. The internet is a giant contest for eyeballs and earballs, and we won. The Catholics won this year.
Fair enough.
Is that-
Yeah, I mean,
Is that true?
that's let's see how that thesis holds up over 2 hours.
All right, first of all, we have a new patron saint of the internet in the Catholic Church, Carlo Acutis or Acutis. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say his Italian last name.
Everyone says Acutis, so I think we should go with
Acutis.
that.
By the way, if I tell my phone to remember something, because I wanted to tell my phone remind me to talk about Carlo Acutis on the show, it turns it into a cutie. That's what I'm supposed to talk about. Carlo Acuti. So apparently I am very attracted to a man named Carlo, but Carlo Acutis.
Quick note for Luke: can you clip just that part?
Oh my gosh, no. Because then don't do that, because then I will guard myself, and that will, if I become guarded,
and the show will no longer be entertaining.
it'll no longer be.
That's true.
It's
Yeah,
only-
you be out and proud about this.
By the way, a lot. Joe. A lot of people are catching us for the first time because you're on the road maybe, or you're off work on a day you haven't. If you want to know about us, you can find us at Catholic.com, and you should come on a cruise with us. We're going on a cruise from Amsterdam to Basel in just a few months, starting on
Just
May
a few
3rd.
rooms left
Just a few. Oh, you can get those last rooms for our
at the
Flannel
nice
Panel.
people discount.
And get the nice people discount. Call us, get the nice people discount, or visit CatholicCruise.com to come with us. But Flannel Panel, we'll all be there. All right, let me give you the evidence that Catholics won the internet this year. Okay, you guys ready for the evidence?
Ready for it.
That the big story of the year, the big theme of the year, according to Luke Bender, who is plugged into the internet. Literally, actually, he is a machine.
He's a bot. Yes.
He's a bot plugged into the internet. Item number. Well, Carlo Acutis was the first sign that we won the internet this year. Matt Fradd joined the Daily Wire. That's what? What? That does not.
Oh, that's okay. All right.
What, you're like? Oh, that's serious? Yes, I was serious about that one.
Okay.
What? Were you aware that Matt Fradd joined the Daily Wire and how important this is to the
Someone
people
here
of Earth?
told me that he did.
Were you aware
I
of it?
didn't. I don't know. I have never seen an episode of The Daily Wire.
Oh, have you ever?
It's-
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I mean, think about what we do here. Of just you get people who hopefully have interesting takes on things. You put them in a room together. You ask them for their thoughts about current events. I think that's a Daily
So
Wire.
The Daily Wire is a
formula in
TV
some
show.
way.
Is a TV show.
Yeah, it's a TV show
No, it's
for the
more
internet.
of a consortium of
Yeah.
different internet personalities.
It's a media company, is what it is.
Right.
But it's primarily based in. It started in podcasting and has moved into other things like making documentaries and all that kind of stuff. But it's a media juggernaut.
Is this the thing that has Candace Owens on it, or Candace
Had.
Williams, or Candace? What's her name?
Candace Owens was at Daily Wire. They
Okay.
had something of a falling out.
I see.
Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh,
Oh,
Michael
Ben Shapiro.
Knowles.
Okay.
All of those people. In fact, actually, this is sort of Candace adjacent news. One of the major controversies over, our friend Matt Fradd joining the Daily Wire is that on the one hand, he has a much wider audience. And here I actually think of Fulton Sheen, where Fulton Sheen makes his transition from radio, where he's doing a very Catholic thing on the radio, to his Life is Worth Living TV show,
TV.
where he's reaching a broader audience. But kind of as a result, you see him diversifying his topics a little bit, where he covers some things of more general interest, the dangers of communism in a way that a Protestant or a Jewish
Oh.
person watching
Yeah.
would resonate with. And so his audience like explodes in size, but becomes a lot of non-Catholics as well. And he regularly commented on this. He estimated that Catholics were like his third largest demographic in terms of the show. And so with Matt Fradd moving over to the Daily Wire, you have this same much larger audience kind of at his fingertips now. But you have people who are worried that, Ben Shapiro is Jewish. He's not Christian at all. Is this going to mean that he kind of waters down the Catholicism? That's what a lot of people were worried about. And some of them maybe expressed that in a less than charitable way. For my own part, I don't see that happening. I mean, I'm sure he will continue to take things that are both distinctly Catholic and things that are maybe of a more broad-reaching approach. But I think that's a totally healthy thing to do. That there are areas where we have common ground, where there are areas where people of goodwill who aren't Catholic will say, yeah, that makes sense. We agree. We're on board with that. And that kind of thing builds up the goodwill that people want to hear you out when you're saying the distinctly Catholic thing. Our colleague Trent Horn, I think, does this extremely well, where he covers all sorts of topics you don't have to be Catholic to agree with him on. And that makes you hopefully more likely to trust him and listen to him when he says, oh, and by the way, here's why we as Catholics believe X or Y.
You had a point you wanted to make. So
I
go
wanted
ahead.
I wanted to say that Fulton Sheen beat out Milton Berle.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But Milton
There's a
Berle had the
famous
best line
Milton
ever.
Berle line, yeah.
But he had better writers. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's
Yeah.
what.
Oh,
what
that's
Milton
right,
Berle
that's right,
said.
yeah.
But is there it seems to me some Catholics would be happier with their Catholicism. Maybe this is too mean to say it this way. If it would be just in a Catholic ghetto, that if you wouldn't take it out, like I feel like Matt Fradd. I don't know Matt. I'm not like super up on anybody's media. I can't even remember what we do here from one day to the next a lot of the time. But that's why we have Darren. Darren remembers everything that we do. I can't. But he'll be like, yeah, you interviewed that guy like 2 weeks ago. I'll be like, oh, really? That's the same guy. But so I'm not saying I'm a big media person, but it seems to me just on its face a good thing when a Catholic is so successful that a secular media company says, yeah, let's bring him in and mine his content a little bit.
So it sounds to me like this Daily Wire, there was almost entirely staffed now by Catholics. Knowles is a Catholic, right? Walsh, these guys are Catholics?
Knowles and Walsh are both Catholics. We've
Yeah.
had Michael Knowles on the show.
Yeah, and Fradd's a Catholic.
Fradd's a Catholic.
Yes,
That's what they say.
He's a good man, yeah. I think this is very good news. Are they going to tell Ben Shapiro he should get baptized?
I don't know.
I think that it's probably fair to say that will happen. I think I saw something where Matt Fradd already announced to them that they're all under the jurisdiction of the Pope. So I don't see him pulling his punches.
Wait, now
with
let's just unpack that for a minute, because Matt Fradd is playing around there a little bit.
Yeah, halfway.
What do you mean halfway? In what
I
sense?
mean, there's
in what
a
sense
real
is the
sense
Daily
in
Wire
which-
under the authority of the Pope?
Like the whole world is properly under the authority of the Pope as the
okay.
vicar of Christ the King.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think he knows that. I think he's being a little bit playful about just how Catholic the organization's becoming. But I think if you pressed him and said, is there a sense in we can affirm, the spiritual authority of the Pope?
But
then we would say, yeah.
Let's take the Christ the King thing there for a minute, because I do think that's important. Christ is king. He's the ruler. This whole universe belongs to him. So he's the proper. But he clearly, if we take the scriptural view of it, he has delegated the governance of things to other people. So, like, the Pope is not the ruler of the world in the sense of being a temporal ruler. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I want to be careful to unpack
properly
this properly.
Distinction between the spiritual/ecclesiastical authority and the temporal authority. But there's also a relationship between them. So this is an issue of a great deal of theological work, throughout the centuries of the church. You've got things like the two swords doctrine, et cetera, where Leo the 13th talks about all of this. Like there is a relationship in which there is no such thing as a purely secular power if all power ultimately comes from God. And when Jesus speaks to Pilate, he says you would have no authority if it had not come to you from on high. So even the non-Christian kings of the world derive their power in the ultimate sense from God. The more authority recognizes that and gives honor where it is due to the one who gives them the authority that they have, the healthier and more authentic the state becomes. Like a state that denies its authority is ultimately derived from God is denying the foundation of the state.
Is it since John the 23rd that the Holy Father has not worn the triple tiara, or Paul VI?
I believe it was Paul VI gave it to the UN.
Yeah. So, but that triple tiara, one of those crowns represents King of the World.
Yes, but okay, because each of you said something very interesting in response to this. Chris's question was, are they going to tell Ben Shapiro he needs to get baptized?
Yes.
And Joe,
I hope they do.
And Joe referenced,
and if they don't, Ben, you need to get baptized.
But Joe referenced the fact that they're all under the Pope. But both of those require considerable nuance to unpack them. That's
true.
That we can say these things jokingly in one sense, but I think we do owe it to people to unpack them properly, because there is a crazy kind of Catholic triumphalism that's out there now running around. It does tend towards the anti-Semitic, this Catholic triumphalism.
Isn't that phrase "Christ is King" sort of loaded with that?
I mean, a lot of people use it in a way to sort of.
It's a kind of a code.
No, but what I'm saying is a disordered Catholic triumphalism,
I think Chris is saying disordered as well.
That's what I'm talking about.
Code in a good way.
Yeah.
So this is our big end of year extravaganza, and I organized the stories into the big Catholic stories and the big secular stories of the year. We will get to all of them, a whole bunch of stories to cover for the year, as everybody does their year in review. But we think we got a pretty. We got a special angle on it that is looking at what we do every day. Every time we meet as the Flannel Panel, I shouldn't say every day, but every time we're together as the Flannel Panel, we look at the news of the world from a Catholic perspective. So we're looking at the year's news from a Catholic perspective today. And one of the things that Bender, when he looked at the stories that I had gathered, he says, looks like Catholics won the internet this year. So our first big thing is, did Catholics win the internet? And my two pieces of evidence thus far, I have not presented my entire case, but my two pieces of evidence thus far is we have a new saint in charge of the internet, Carlo Acutis. And by the way, what a horrible job. I would like to be, like, if I'm a saint, I would like to be the saint in charge of parties, or, maybe in charge of, like, I don't know, hot dishes. But to be the saint in charge of the internet, what a horrible job Carlo Acutis has gotten for himself. Second piece of evidence, Matt Fradd joined the Daily Wire, which generated some responses from you. You are underwhelmed with that as an important story, Chris Check.
I just don't know. So I am thinking about this now. When I cared about, so the Daily Wire is a political, cultural source of commentary. Is that right?
I would say that is a perfect description.
Okay,
that seems to me a perfect description.
So when I was the age of the people who are watching the Daily Wire now,
yes,
I read.
Just for context, you're someone who used the term Milton Berle and expected everyone to know who you meant, and then asked what the Daily Wire was. So
Okay.
if listeners are wondering where your cultural tastes lie.
All right, I was actually, I never saw a live episode of the Fulton Sheen Show. I was born in 1966. When was that show broadcast? It was before that.
It was certainly in
I
the
think it's
50s.
before that.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
done by the 60s. Yeah, I mean, as far as that show goes.
In any case, when I was the age of the people who, so I'm gathering this that the Daily Wire is a substantially influential media outlet in what we'll just very broadly call the conservative movement. Is that? Or
I think all of this is
Do people
correct.
start use that? Do they use that expression anymore? Conservative
Yeah,
movement.
I think that's a fair way of describing
Okay, so
that.
when I was the age of the people who watched Daily Wire, I read magazines.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, you had to read magazines to know what was going on. Then there was
What are those?
Did you watch the Sunday news shows as a kid? I did.
No. I mean, I did watch Firing Line
Firing Line was big.
and
yeah, right.
and McLaughlin Group, or McLaughlin and Company, McLaughlin Group.
McLaughlin Group.
The former Jesuit.
Yeah.
Pat Buchanan got his start on there, and then in the early days of CNN, Pat Buchanan and Michael Kinsley did Crossfire.
Right.
And Kinsley was a lib, but he was
They were two intelligent.
He was an
people.
intelligent man.
That was probably the closest thing to what from our era that you could associate with.
But
the Daily
I think I'm
Wire.
a bad person to ask about this because one of the reasons I love being, and I used to work in this world when I was at the Rockford Institute. This is what I was heavily involved in, conservative movement, politics, or culture.
Right.
And I'm very happy to be at Catholic Answers now.
Yeah, there is well, that's the question. Like, if Matt Fradd is moving from talking about Jesus to talking about
He's moving. He went in the
red and
opposite
blue
direction
states,
that I did.
That seems to me he's chosen to move from the higher things to the lower.
No, I'm very happy a Catholic of Matt's personal holiness and talent and knowledge now is going to have this audience because look, if it's true, it belongs to us, right? Isn't that what Justin Martyr said? If it's
Was it Justin Martyr that said that?
yeah, pretty much.
That's a good one. It belongs to the church.
Yeah, if it's true, it belongs to us. So Matt is going to be able to take the fullness of truth and apply it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's great news.
Right. All right. Okay. So I do want to go back.
But I
to,
still prefer magazines.
I know you do, Chris. I don't know what to say about that. It's that ship has sailed. I think. I think that
Catholic
ship has
Answers no
sailed.
longer has a magazine. I lost that one.
Yeah, because print is very, very expensive. Mail is very, very expensive, and electrons are amazingly cheap.
But the problem with electrons is there's too many of them.
They're kind of negative.
Very good. There's too many electrons.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But that's. I mean, God made the right amount of electrons, but I see what you mean. That there is this capacity problem that we have way over capacity in our news business, and so they end up so many stupid things become. But there was a pretty good number of stupid things when we were young.
I think that if Matt and the other Matt and who's the third one? Knowles.
Matt Fradd, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles.
Yeah, I think if they can bring
Michael Knowles. So Michael
Ben
Matt.
Shapiro into the church, that would be magnificent.
Okay, but let me ask you this: how do you feel about working with Jews in the public sphere?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think sometimes that there's this like you said, well they should tell Matt Fradd that he should get baptized. Well,
I'm concerned about his
salvation. Person.
Well, I didn't know.
Yeah, even if you're concerned about his salvation.
How about, hey Matt? How about Ben? Let's go get a beer. And then after they have a beer, he says, you ought to get baptized.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So not the first thing.
No, but we don't give up evangelization, right?
By the way,
I'm not against evangelization.
If memory serves, there's a book out recently.
Yes, how to talk
about Jesus with Ben Shapiro.
That's right. Ben Shapiro's in there. We did not use Ben Shapiro as an example,
but he would fit under that category. Anyone.
But I would think Ben Shapiro, if you said I'm a Catholic and I want to talk about Jesus with everyone I meet, Ben Shapiro would understand that. Like
It seems
you
to me-
should understand that about Christians is we want to talk about Jesus. Everyone should understand that about Christian. When you choose to work with a Christian, you're choosing to work with someone for whom Jesus is everything.
By the way,
and he keeps choosing to work with Christians.
Look, I have no knowledge of this. I haven't spoken to Matt about this, and I've never met Ben Shapiro. But it seems to me the conversation's already underway. If Ben Shapiro hired Matt Fradd, surely he has to know, and he's hired these other Catholics. Surely he has to know this conversation's coming. It's probably already underway.
Yeah.
I
think
worried.
the other.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was going to say the other thing that is really tied up with all of this, although on paper it's distinct, is you have people who are worried that they're going to that Matt is not going to be a strong voice on anything related to Israel. And I think in a lot of ways this is something of a proxy over the whole conversation we've just had. Is he going to not be distinctively Christian anymore, not distinctively Catholic? He's going to, kind of toe the line of just whatever Ben Shapiro says, based on Ben Shapiro is a strong supporter of Israel and was a strong supporter of Israel in its fight against Palestine. And Fradd was much more nuanced and I think called out bad things that had happened on both sides of that equation.
So was Michael Knowles.
Knowles is becoming increasingly more and more a critic of the state of Israel, of their policies.
Right. I think there is an unfair stereotype that the Daily Wire guys are just in lockstep on Israel and worse, are in lockstep because of the control of some shadowy Jewish cabal or Ben Shapiro. And I think all of that is just kind of untrue.
There seems to be some underlying, if you work with a Jew, you're going to get all Jewy. And that seems to me really deeply offensive. There seems to be this, I don't mean it as an opinion, I mean it as an attitude. I think we're certainly the things that we've seen this year in 2025, it's horrifying, the killing of Jews on Bondi Beach, or there's real consequences to anti-Semitism. This is no joke, and particularly Muslim anti-Semitism, I must say. But Christians are why do we want to imitate Muslims in this? Why do we want to be like, oh yeah, we want to get in on that anti-Jew thing too? I just that bothers me, is the attitude that's under a lot of the commentary about Matt Fradd, and Fradd made fun of it in a little video he made where he wore
it was
a yarmulke.
very clever.
But there's nothing to fear with Jews. There's nothing to fear with working with Jews. There's nothing to fear. Stop it. That's the way I feel about that. I agree with you about evangelization, but I'm worried about the person who's, especially these young people who are being anti-Semitized by the internet. Stop it.
I don't disagree with a single thing you've said. I agree with it. I am concerned that people will refrain from criticizing the war in Gaza, for example, or the policies of the state of Israel out of a fear of being labeled anti-Semitic.
Yeah, that's a trap. I do think I see that. There's a trap there where you want to be able to say, look, you blew up churches for no reason. Why
tens of thousands of women and children dead.
And those are legitimate criticisms of the state of Israel.
There are two very loud voices that are like, Israel is special and unique, and they're the problem of all the world. And then there's another voice that says Israel is special and unique, and you just can't criticize anything they say.
Yeah, right.
And
but treat Israel as a normal country.
Neither of these views is
Catholic.
Is remotely true.
Right.
Israel, like all countries, has done some horrible things, and those horrible things should be called out without equivocation. But that doesn't mean we have to, go into anti-Semitic tropes or any of these things. You can just say, yeah, this country acted in ways that were cruel and indefensible, and also some other people did some pretty cruel and indefensible things to them, and also, every other country you want to look at, you can tell that same story. But if you only look at the negative things any one group does, you can build a case against anybody, anywhere you want.
We're on that break for 90 seconds, and here's how the conversation went. We started, by the end of it, trying to solve the Falkland Islands conflict of the 1980s. It's hard to keep us on track. It's hard to keep us on track.
Year in review, 1980, whatever.
Yeah, right. Argentina made a mistake, by the way. I think we all agree Argentina made a mistake.
86?
Was it 86? Well, you're good if you can remember.
82, it looks like.
82? I wouldn't have thought. Really? 82 was the Falkland Islands War? Wow. But we solved it here in 90 seconds. All right, so Catholicism became cool again. Before I get to the death and the election that I was talking about, we actually had an article in the New York Times this year with the question headline, "How did Catholicism become cool again?" So something did happen.
Was it cool before?
Did you? Yeah. Like when was it cool? Yeah. When was it ever cool to be
I
Catholic?
was country when country wasn't cool.
Something definitely happened. We had tremendous numbers of adults coming into the church. And now I say tremendous numbers. We still lose more adults than we gain here in the United States.
It's a little trickier than that.
Okay.
When you look at the numbers, we have lost more than we've gained, which is a different statement.
Sure.
Because some of those are lost. So it's not year to year. It's saying when you ask adults, are they more likely to say they've entered the Catholic Church or left it? They're way more likely to say they've left it. But if you say, look at just 2025, how many people are walking out the doors, how many people are walking in the doors, the situation seems a little more dynamic.
Okay, so you think we might be doing better because certainly, yeah, because of the massive hemorrhaging of Catholics for the 50 years before 2025.
Right.
If you just do a general canvassing of the public and say, are you somebody who entered or somebody who exited, we'd have to go 50 great years in order to meet the numbers of exiting.
Right. And so what we've seen is that there was a long year after year, decade after decade decline in religiosity. And this was well established. I mean, this was true across the board, but there was a particular problem within the Catholic Church of just a sort of mass exodus. And then somewhere around 2020 or so, the decline stopped. That's not a huge revival, but the numbers are going down, 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 down. And then it sort of stops going down. And then it starts to creep up a little bit. And so now we find people reporting that they're more religious. We find people saying they're more likely to go to church. We find numbers of people in church going up. And given these sort of apocalyptic scenarios, I was hearing during this same period about how with the COVID shutdown in churches, like this is going to be the end of the church in America because once people stop going, they're never going to come back. We're actually seeing an upward trajectory. Now, that upward trajectory has not made up all of the losses we had 2019, 2020 of, people who did stop going to church and didn't start coming back again. And because the oldest generation of Americans are the ones most likely to go to church, when a lot of old people stopped going and then didn't start coming back again, those numbers are hard to make up.
Yeah.
But if you look just at younger people in the last few years, in spite of all the other things that are going on, we do see in the numbers that there is something going on where it shows an increased awareness of and draw towards religion generally and Catholicism specifically.
Most interesting to me about these data that Joe is talking about is regional differences.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, I just think that, for example, in Lincoln, Nebraska, where our friend Bishop Conley has been the ordinary for some time now, there are a lot of vocations and places like Columbus, Ohio, for example. Whereas here in San Diego, I think Joe, you did some homework on this by diocese. We have the fewest number of young men in the seminary in the United States here in San Diego. So correct me if I'm wrong. So if as this revitalization takes place, I think we will see kind of evidence of more and more people watching Catholic Answers Live or whatever it is on the internet, as you're talking about. But to me, the very interesting thing is where are going to be the parts of the country and the world where family life, Catholic family life, starts to flourish again.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So building on what Chris is saying, like if you just map out, so the I believe it was Catholic World Report did a fruitfulness survey, and what they were looking at is per capita, right? What is your percentage or per capita rate rather of diocesan seminarians, of Catholic weddings, of infant baptisms, of non-infants being received into the church.
This is not going to go well for San Diego, I can tell you right now.
No, San Diego overall was, of the 175 dioceses in the U.S., they were ranked 171st. So
hey, we're not last.
No,
so you're
Brownsville
saying there's
was
a chance.
Was last. Brownsville, El Paso, Norwich, and Las Vegas were the ones who had worse performance. Now, I want to give a little bit of credit to the fact that if you're a border diocese and you have a lot of people coming in the diocese, that's going to throw your per capita numbers off. If you've not really had a chance to catechize and form, and then you have a bunch of people crossing the border, entering the diocese, needing the services of the church, not entering seminary, not getting married, on paper, you're going to see a lot of problems there. So
that particular data, Joe, speaks to an interesting, or suggests an interesting conclusion with respect to the level of catechesis in the country of Mexico and in Latin America more broadly, and it has been for several generations now.
A disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. We've suffered quite a few disasters in the Catholic Church, and you can. It does seem to me that there are distinct lines that continue in the church about how to respond to the disasters. I mean, the sexual revolution was a disaster for the church. The reception of, not the execution of, but the reception of the Second Vatican Council was a disaster. Certainly the sex abuse stuff was an utter disaster for the church. But it seems to me that we haven't settled on this is how we're going to go forward with this. And it does seem to me that Pope Francis was a disruptive force in that. It seemed to me that Pope John Paul and disruptive is not a good word or a bad word. It's just a fact. So it seemed to me that John Paul was setting a certain direction. It seemed to me Benedict was continuing that direction and adding a kind of his intellectual heft to the leadership of the church to continue in that direction. And then Francis said, no, we're going a completely different direction.
In the case of Mexico, and I don't mean to derail, but isn't that kind of what we do on this?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Want to talk about the Falkland Islands?
In the case of Mexico, it's in the 90s, coinciding about the time when Benedict or John Paul is canonizing and beatifying martyrs of the Cristero War, for example, that the penal codes are being changed. And you see clerics wearing their clerical clothing in public, and there is something of revitalization of the church in Mexico. But I do think that has not proceeded well since then. But this is an interesting thing, and then I apologize. I gave a talk last week for the Institute for Catholic Culture on Cortez to Our Lady of Guadalupe, and I had a very good question from a woman. And she observed something with respect to Mexico. The Guadalupe Shrine in Mexico is the most visited Catholic shrine in the world by millions.
Yeah.
And the next one is Rome, and then Fatima, I think, but by millions more. And yet there is and Our Lady, when she appears to Juan Diego, says, "I want to tell the world about my son." She's very explicit. That's what she wants to do. I want the world to know about my son. And yet, Our Lady of Guadalupe in some ways has eclipsed her son in the popular sentiment in Mexico.
Yes, yeah. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. There's more coming.
Yeah, but that does seem to me that even when you go back to, I think it was around the year 2000 with the letter Dominus Jesus from Ratzinger but endorsed by Pope John Paul. It does seem to me that if you wanted to trace a trajectory that John Paul and Benedict had the church on, it was go back to the proclamation of the person of Jesus. And that it was very, very, if you want to talk about ressourcement, that it seems to me that these two had this idea of it is the proclamation of the person of Jesus that's going to be the relevant thing. And this comes from the Second Vatican Council, from Lumen Gentium. Lumen Gentium, the first words of the document are, Christ is the light of nations. This is what we are here to do, is to proclaim Christ as the light of nations. When I see what happened with Pope Francis, there's a radical disruption there, and I think a confusion that comes in. And I honestly, I know that this will sound like I'm judging Pope Francis. Disruption can be good or bad. I don't know the outcome of it. But I wonder if Pope Leo's task isn't to somehow integrate the Franciscan with the John Paulian and find a way forward that the church will not lose its. And I don't think Francis was against Jesus. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it was confusing to people. What is the course that he's setting for the church?
And you had a whole cadre of people who presented themselves as sort of the interpreter of Pope Francis for American life, or
Most
the
of them
interpreter of Pope
useless.
Francis for, and a lot of it was kind of, they were just saying, oh no, trust me, my own theological agenda is totally what the Pope says, and if you disagree with me, you don't like the Pope.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see kind of what those people are going to do now, because Pope Leo, you don't have people wondering, what did he mean by that, in the same way. So I think there was certainly a sense. I'm reminded of St. Paul in 1 Corinthians 14, where he says, if the bugle gives an indistinct sound, who will get ready for battle? That there is that sense that I think a lot of bishops weren't sure what direction the Holy Father wanted them to go, and it maybe led to a little more
Freelancing?
confusion, inaction, ambiguity.
The truth is, though, that the Benedict and the John Paul effect, with respect to seminarians especially, is still well underway. The work that Catholic University, I know we've talked about it on this show before, the work that Catholic University has done on the, how can we say, the perspective of seminarians, or where they are on the political spectrum. And I don't like those adjectives, but we use them. They are increasingly larger and larger percentage of them conservative, and the ones that who are not are retiring or dying.
Okay.
If I may, I wanted to return to something real quick.
Go ahead, Joe.
Because
I was trying to set you up there, Joe.
Okay, wonderful.
Are you going to try to sell one of your books right now, Joe?
No,
Is that what you're
Christian
doing?
Smith's book,
Oh,
Young
okay.
Catholic America, Emerging Adults in, Out of, and Gone from the Church. This book's a little older. It's early 2010s, I believe, 2012, 2013. But it looks at the rates of first, second, and third generation Hispanic immigrants to the U.S. compared to their white Catholic counterparts, and looks at, how likely are they to receive confirmation, receive First Communion, go to confession. And even though there are definitely catechetical problems that I think Chris rightly points out, the immigrants to the U.S. have more kind of hallmarks of devotional life. They're more likely to go to confession. They're more likely to go on pilgrimage. They're more likely to pray the rosary. They're more likely to have religious images in their home, way more likely to receive First Communion. They're actually slightly less likely to have been confirmed. So what you have there is clearly people with some affiliation to the faith, but it also seems like we're not doing a great job of doing anything with that, because their kids and their grandkids look much more like their secular American peers than they do like their parents.
I think that affiliation is largely cultural.
Well, I think that's part of, a lot of what you have is
It's not
you've got a
religious.
culture where people are doing things, going to confession and the like.
Confession, I'm suspicious of.
Why?
Go on.
Why are you suspicious?
I'm just suspicious of the number because the baptism and First Holy Communion are big public celebrations.
Yeah.
Confession's not, and you should, right? You should celebrate. But so I can't dispute the numbers that you're sharing there, Joe. But it would
I would even
surprise
back
me.
it up anecdotally. People I've known from Mexico were, in my experience, way more likely to either go to confession on Saturday or not go to communion if they hadn't been to confession on the prior day.
Everybody in the
So
confession
you'd have
line
a
at
lot
my
of people
church is
doing
Mexican.
sinful things, but
Like
you also had more of a sense of, this is something I need to go to confession for.
we got to take the break, but when we come back, okay. So did Catholics win the internet this year? Our evidence thus far: Carlo Acutis, the new saint for the internet. Matt Fradd joined the Daily Wire. Catholicism, according to the media, including the New York Times, became cool again this year. This is what I'd like to hit when we come back. I think we need to talk about Catholic Answer's role in this. It's bigger than people think. And I'm going to give you my evidence for that and get your comments right after this on Catholic Answers Live. Maybe more than in recent years, has included good news for the Catholic Church. Quite a good news year. I I've already done this with Chris and Joe before, but I attribute most of that to the fact that we had a Eucharistic Congress here in the United States. I believe there's nothing more powerful than Christ in the Eucharist. As a matter of fact, that is the King of the universe come to be with us. And so I think the Eucharistic Congress has a big part of that. But I would like to say something about Catholic Answers as an institution founded by Carl Keating and built by people like Jimmy Aiken and now I'm forgetting everybody's name. I panicked.
Tim Staples?
No, but even before that, Father Ryland's
Patrick
time,
Madrid.
Patrick Madrid. I couldn't get Patrick Madrid's name to come out of my brain. But
Mark Brumley.
And Mark Brumley. Okay, you look at what we're seeing now, I think, is a lot of, we talked before about Protestants ministers complaining about Catholics are so much better prepared on the internet than Protestants are for many of the arguments that are going on, for many of the conversations that are going on. People are discovering the truth of the Catholic Church. If I look at Ascension Press, I see founded by a graduate of Catholic Answers. If I look at Ignatius Press, it's run by a graduate of Catholic Answers. Matt Fradd, Jason Everett, on and on and on.
Patrick Madrid.
Patrick Madrid. We mentioned Patrick. I think the effect, the Catholic Answers effect, is resonating. It's doing just exactly what it was meant to do, which what you said is build the forces up, prepare the. It's a force multiplier. It's here to prepare people to go out and proclaim Jesus and the fullness of the truth as given to us in the Catholic Church. I think since you're the president of the Catholic Answers, congratulations, Chris.
We're all conduits here, and if I had a role in that, I'm glad to have played it. But I do think that your mention of the Protestant frustration with the quality of Catholic apologetics is an important one because, and I talk about this now increasingly with the staff and with people outside the apostolate. More and more Protestants are realizing that, let's take one example. Say you're kind of a low church Pentecostalist, and your pastor has just been telling you, well, you keep away from the Catholics. They
Right.
worship statues or whatever it is. Now anybody can look up that charge and see that it's false and actually get a perfectly good response.
I'll tell you what, while you're just talking, I'm going to go to ChatGPT and ask it, do Catholics worship statues? And I'm going to give you, we'll see what how easy this is to debunk, but go ahead.
Right. But then even if you want to get into the more sophisticated Protestant theologies of, say, Martin Luther or John Calvin, for example, Sola Scriptura, I think, is pretty easy to dispatch. Sola Fide takes a little bit longer, I think, but again, anyone who wants to dig into these answers, and this, by the way, I keep thinking of that guy, Jeremy Christensen, I think his name is, who wrote the book about leaving the Mormon Church.
Oh, yeah.
And his comment to you about the worst thing that happened to the Mormon Church was the internet. But that also is now going to be true of all the Protestant churches. Anyone who seriously wants to look something up can find a charitable and compelling answer.
Catholics worship statues, your pastor told you. Now all you do is just type in, do Catholics worship statues? That's the exact sentence I typed into ChatGPT. Short answer, no. Catholics do not worship statues. Worship is given to God alone. Statues are reminders, not gods. There are different kinds of honor in the Catholic Church. Latria, dulia, hyperdulia. Kneeling and candles and prayer looks like worship, but don't always signify worship. It's as easy as that now to find out the truth. And that wasn't, I didn't ask, probably ChatGPT stole all of that intellectual property from from Catholic.com.
Yes.
But God bless them, steal more if that's what the kind of things that I challenge any Protestant. Type in your question about the Catholic faith. And see what ChatGPT says, because I think the best friend of the Catholic faith is the internet.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can also go to Catholic.com. You can
Sure,
look up your questions
but I
there
don't know
as
if
well.
everyone would. I think people will see that as bias. If you're like Chris said, a low church Pentecostal Christian, I'm saying go to a neutral site and find out.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm just saying there's something kind of strange about that. I get it. I get where you're coming from completely, and I think that's a very valid thing. You can just say neutrally, but it is weird to say, "Hey, what does Cy believe?" And it'd be like, "Well, I can't ask Cy. He's biased." I got to ask somebody else about
That's
what
a
I
good
believe.
point. Yes, right. That's a good point.
I
Joe.
think Catholic Answer's big opportunity in the coming year and in the years to follow is going to be with the evangelical churches, because those do have a kind of a fervor still, and they are having children and they are growing, and they seem to have some like an active, energetic faith life. I think those who are open to having their theology examined are gonna find their way into the Catholic Church. The other Protestant churches, the Methodists, the Episcopalians, they're just imploding. They have fewer numbers every year.
It's sad how many have given up on Christianity.
Right.
Like whole churches no longer believe the Christian faith. That's sad.
There are a
to me.
handful of issues that are quite predictably just dividing these denominations in ways that are causing outright schisms. The Church of England elects a pro-choice woman as the Archbishop of Canterbury, and it becomes so transparent to anyone with eyes. Like, that's not what an archbishop looks like or believes or is. Like, that's whatever you want to call this woman, you can call her whatever.
Oh, we lost Joe.
Oh, that's because Satan didn't like what he was saying. That's what we say around here. When Satan gets mad at Joe, he just cuts him off. And Joe is talking to himself.
Called the
See, he is. He thought we were listening to him, but you got cut off, Joe.
Yeah, it said hold. I got a weird message I'd never gotten before saying, "Hold on, you can call into the."
Oh, really?
With this number.
Maybe
So,
ChatGPT got mad at
no
you
idea
for your comments regarding ChatGPT. Don't do that, Joe. Don't speak. Okay, so go ahead. You were saying about.
No, I was starting to say, or I don't know exactly where I was in this, that there are a predictable set of issues. Your beliefs about sexual activity between people of the same sex or unmarried people. Your belief about women being priests and bishops and all of this that are dividing a number of Protestant denominations as we speak. The Dutch Reformed in the U.S. and Canada are going through a schism where a new denomination is forming, a more liberal one. Usually the conservatives are the ones breaking away. This time it's the more liberal members breaking away to form their own denomination. It's a huge schism. The Anglicans are having a global schism where a majority of the world's Anglicans, it looks like, are no longer going to be in union with England. I mean, the whole point of being Anglican, it's right there in the name, is that you're part of the Church of England.
Right.
And so it was never meant to be a global church. It was only meant to be the Church of England and her colonies. And now it's become this kind of global phenomenon in the English-speaking world where it's causing this massive schism because the Archbishop of Canterbury, allegedly, is a pro-choice woman. And even people who've gone along with women's ordination to the priesthood maybe say, well, you can't become a bishop. I don't know why they draw the line there. And certainly say the things she believes on all these issues are just not Christian beliefs. And so you're finding these schisms within large Protestant denominations. And the more the Catholic Church just speaks sanity clearly and charitably,
and remains
I think the more that'll be a
and remains unified.
That's important, Chris, isn't it?
The endless fracturing. I ask my Protestant brothers and sisters, when you observe that, does that not give you pause? This endless fracturing.
Well, I have to say there was a kind of caricature of Pope Francis that is actually being lived out in the German church in many ways. That people said that's what Francis is, but even Francis looked at that and went, "Are you kidding me? Why do we need another Protestant church?
Yes.
Stay Catholic."
He said we already had one German Reformation.
Yeah. And all right, so this time we'll get to the big secular stories. We talked about the church last hour and kind of did a church in review in our own way. This time we'll talk about the secular stories. But I did say in the church section, I would talk about a death and an election. And then I realized
it took me a second.
I never got back.
It took me a second to understand which death and election you were talking about.
Did you know what I was talking about?
I figured it
Pope
out.
Francis.
And then the election of?
Pope Let me guess. Wait, how many guesses do I get?
All right, I didn't. I thought because Charlie Kirk died, and I think a lot of people that was the big death of the year.
Who was elected to replace Charlie Kirk?
I don't know. I don't know how those things work, but so I realized maybe people would have thought because it was a year in review. I was talking about Charlie Kirk at the break. That's what I realized. But what I was talking about when it was regarding the Catholic Church in review was the death of a pope and the election of a pope. But that was clear to you, Chris. You didn't need a clarification on that.
I kept up with you.
You kept up with me. All right.
In my advanced years.
All right, I got 6 huge stories, and I'm not going to do them. I'm going to try to do them in reverse order of importance, but I might not. So story number 6, you'll be like, really? That's a big story of the year? But I think it is a big story of the year. And I have backup for this. My best friend said that these are the big stories of the year too. Okay,
Who's your best friend?
you know. ChatGPT. ChatGPT
That's what I
is
was
my best
afraid
friend.
you were going to say.
Yeah, this year I became best friends with ChatGPT. We are inseparable. ChatGPT just
Are you in a Reddit thread about how you're in love with your ChatGPT?
do they? No, I'm not in any Reddit threads. I can tell you that.
There are Reddit threads about this for people with
I didn't know
like
that.
you who have fallen in love with their AI.
But I have tried to tell my wife, like, you could learn from ChatGPT, because every time I ask ChatGPT a question, it tells me how brilliant my question is and how insightful my question is. That, I think, is something that we could put into our marriage, and it would help. If I say to my wife, "Where's the ketchup?" I feel like she should say,
Great question.
That
It's
is a
right in
great
front of
and
you in the
insightful
bottle
question.
labeled ketchup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you looked in the refrigerator? I realize that the rest of that conversation is tiresome for her, but just throw in a little bit about how great I am every time you answer my question.
So we
You don't have to put the ketchup in the refrigerator. I know that's not the point of the story, but
When has the point of the story ever concerned you, Joe? Well, name the time that was a concern for you.
actually I think that's a valuable.
I didn't know
either.
that. I always thought eggs and ketchup you had to put in the refrigerator. I guess neither has to go
Well,
in the
if
refrigerator.
if the eggs have been refrigerated, I think you probably should commit.
Oh, really?
eggs is actually a little trickier because we clean the outside of eggs, which removes the protective layer, and I think there actually can be health reasons to refrigerate eggs. But ketchup is only for flavor; it's not needed. I mean, you can go to diners and see ketchup on the table.
All day long.
Yeah.
I assumed they just took it out of the refrigerator before I got there. You're saying that I'm just getting the dead, unrefrigerated ketchup? Is that?
May I go back to this?
We're talking about ketchup, Chris.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Yes.
We say that on this show a lot.
Oh, to the caller.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We
Right.
do.
Some of the Joe does it a lot.
He does.
but they are actually good questions.
No,
and I think it
no.
is
Well, some of the questions are actually very good questions.
yeah. But do you feel, Joe, any obligation as the apologist, as the person who's coming?
It's almost like a trope, or
do you,
not?
do you wanna,
what is it?
Do you
It's
want to affirm them? Is that important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because one thing you really want is for people to feel like they can ask questions and they can kind of go down those avenues.
David,
so even if they're just like, I've been thinking lately about how stupid Catholicism is for all these 20 reasons, I kind of want them to keep doing that. Because
Right,
the
'cause-
more time and effort they put into that, and the more they're saying, and I'm going to go share my findings with these Catholics, and then give the Catholic an answer to respond. It's like, great, that's wonderful.
If the
Like,
call
people who
screener
just-
lets somebody in with 20 objections to Catholicism, we got the wrong call screener on for the.
I mean, you can tell them to call back next time with the
Just
other 19.
give us your top
but
3. That's what the call screener should be saying. Give us your top 3.
David Anders on Call to Communion says, "I appreciate that question."
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Says
I like
he
that.
says, "I appreciate that question."
That's good.
And I think, I mean, I know David. He's a genuine man.
wonderful
he's a wonderful
person.
man, and I believe he does. And the reason I believe he does is because he appreciates the opportunity to clarify something
Yeah.
or go deeper.
He's good.
yeah, I'm a big, and also look, that it's sort of a trite saying, but it's true that people don't care what you know till they know that you care. That you have to validate the individual in their journey before they're interested at all in what factual knowledge you may have. Like if you come off as a complete jerk, you can have all the right answers and people will still be repelled by you.
Yeah. Can I say something about? I'm going to move on to the stories, but just one thing about David Anders. He gave a talk at our conference.
It was beautiful.
And David Anders is known as one of the smartest people in the world by the Catholics who have listened. But you hear David Anders and you think, this is a brilliant man. And the reason you think that is, he is a brilliant man. He got up and spent the first 30 minutes of his talk explaining everything he had gotten wrong as an evangelist. And not gotten wrong like I made a mistake, gotten wrong like I was a jerk to this person. I was manipulative to this person. And he got into detail about his own failings as an evangelist. I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever seen, because he didn't come into the room and go, here's 10 great ways that I've evangelized, and it'll work for you. He was like, look, you need to be a real Christian if you want to evangelize. And the first thing you need to do is stop being a jerk.
Yes.
I thought it was beautiful.
I highly recommend people watch it. I'm sure it's on our YouTube channel.
Is it?
I don't
Probably.
know.
Probably is. All right, number 6 story. These are the top six stories of the year. Number 6 story. I'm really insecure right now because I feel like Chris is going to yell at me about every one of my stories. But
I don't know why. I've never yelled at you once in our relationship.
that's true. That doesn't have anything to do with my fear.
Why do I have
this? This is not about you. This is about me.
I'm not a tyrannical person.
I didn't say you were. I was
said I was gonna
expressing
yell
my
at you.
feelings.
No, he said he was afraid you were going to yell at him, which was much weirder.
All right, story
and
number
harder
6.
to defend.
Big,
Okay.
big story number 6 of the 6 biggest stories of the year. No one is going to the movies anymore.
That's the
movies
that's
are
the
over.
dumbest topic I've ever heard.
I knew he was going to do that.
Actually, I think this is sad.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love movies.
I love movies too.
I love movies so much that I've sat through bad ones.
Here's the problem with movies. This is the movie theaters. Oh, no one will come to the movies anymore. It costs $20 and you can get a Diet Coke for $20 and a half a thing of popcorn for $20. And you can sit down in $60 for me to go have a popcorn, a Coke, and a movie. It's not my fault I'm not going to the movies. It's your fault, movie theater. Knock it off.
I think you're exaggerating.
Okay, I'm going to share a quote that I'm sure is going to drive at least one of you insane. Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO of Netflix, said, and this is a direct quote, "There's no reason to believe that the movie itself is better in any size of screen for all people. My son's an editor. He watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone."
Yeah, that guy's an idiot.
He's a
How do you own
billionaire
Netflix
idiot.
and know nothing about movies?
Yeah.
Watching Lawrence of Arabia on your phone. Look,
It's good.
have to
It's
admit-
still good on your phone.
I'm sorry I called that guy an
It's
idiot.
great in a movie theater.
But okay.
You never yell at anybody. You're not tyrannical.
Okay,
Stop it,
what
Chris.
I
Stop
meant is
taking
that's a silly thing to say. That's just silly.
Lawrence of Arabia in a movie theater with a crowd is one of the great experiences you're going to have. Lawrence of Arabia on your phone is a really good movie.
I watched Dune on an airplane, and I'd missed it in theaters, hadn't really paid any attention to it, watched it, and when I watched it, I thought, man, I should have seen that on a much bigger screen.
Yeah.
And so I went home and at least watched it on TV, like a few weeks later with my wife, because it's shot as like this beautiful thing. But here's the thing that doesn't get talked about. When you watch a movie in theaters, Nicole Kidman comes on, at least if you're at AMC, and reminds you to turn off your phone. When you're at home, maybe your wife does that, but otherwise, you're not really watching the movie.
So you prefer Nicole Kidman to your wife is what I'm getting here. Did I read that wrong?
That is one interpretation, not exactly what
did
I
I-
said.
I feel
Nicole
like
Kidman scolds me more than my wife does about having my phone out at the theater.
So to Joe's point, I understand now that the people who are writing movies for Netflix and Apple TV and Amazon, in fact, expect that people will be looking at their phones during the watching of the movie.
Yeah.
And so the movies have to repeat. They have to repeat the plot. They have to reinforce the plot throughout because people aren't paying attention to the picture. My son Nathaniel told me that. Is that true?
I've heard that
I've actually heard movie creators complain about this. That they've pitched ideas specifically to Netflix, who told them basically you have to dumb it down because people are not going to be watching it the whole time. They're going to be distracted.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like this is a sad thing, too, because it's a one more sense of people remaining in the home and not coming out to be with one another.
I think, by the way, I wanted to say, I think your objection exaggerated a little bit.
The cost of the movie?
Yeah. There's a theater that Jackie and I like to go to up in Sabre Springs called Angelica or something like that, but it's with a K. Have you ever been to that one?
No.
Joe, you must have something like this in Kansas City. It's a smaller theater. They have a bar. There's only, 50 seats or maybe 75 seats. You can reserve your seat online. They're a little bit larger, but it's still quite a big screen. And I think that atmosphere is pleasant. It's pleasant.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one.
But I don't know. It's $12 a ticket. Is that a lot? That doesn't seem like a lot.
No,
I remember when movies were $1.50. We all do, but
Yeah, Joe
I
doesn't.
I remember when they were $3, but that was because I was a child.
I believe I have paid 75 cents for a movie. I believe I have.
okay. But I
as
mean,
a child.
but $12 and you sit in a decent chair, you get to reserve your seat. You're not surrounded by.
No, that's right. But like, if you go to the
Ill-behaved.
Regal Cinema or the AMC Cinema, it is. It's not a good experience anymore. They've turned it into a very expensive. Like, especially if you want to take the family to see some kind of cartoon movie or something like that. Get that family in there. It's going to cost you $100 to get Joe's family in there.
I mean, they do charge kind of a fortune. You can find, I mean, to Chris's point, you can find the later run. You can get the ones that they're not doing the movie that just came out. You can find the $5 theaters; those do exist, and you can do the matinees where, if you're able to go, like on a Tuesday afternoon at 1:00, you can get a cheaper ticket then. But
That's something you will never be able to do, Si.
What?
Go Tuesday at 1:00.
No, unless I call in sick.
And we'll know why.
I'm sick. Avatar. Oh, sorry, I had Avatar stuck in my throat. But also, the movies are terrible. I gotta
think
say,
that's
there's
probably
a
the
lot of
bigger
terrible
issue
movies being made.
I mean, a lot of the movies are not worth paying that kind of price for.
No, if you're going for the light and sound show of watching Thor, then you can get the light and sound show at home now, and it's just not going to cost you as
I
much.
remember 2012, and I don't even know what it was. It might have been, I don't even remember. But it was one of these Marvel things, and I said, "This is it. I'm done. I'm not going to sit through another one of these." It was around the time I was coming to Catholic Answers, and I'm like, I'm not watching another one of these.
Yeah, well, the movies are dying, so if
But it's not. There are good movies being made.
There are good movies being made. Many of them are not showing in the local theaters. They're showing for 5 minutes on a New York screen, and then they're going straight to Amazon or Netflix or something like that.
Well, that's why I encourage
but they
you-
are actually good movies.
No, but
they're not bad movies.
There's got to be a chain in almost every major metropolitan area like this Angelica or something. Maybe they are. Maybe it's them because they do show these pictures, and they also bring back older films. So, this place up in Sabre Springs was showing Double Indemnity the other day.
Yeah, now that's fun.
There's a brilliant film, and I have only ever seen it on TV. Can you imagine seeing that on the big
Also,
screen with Fred McMurray?
My favorite actress of all time.
Barbara Stanwyck?
I love Barbara Stanwyck. All right, we'll take a break. I'm going to think about Barbara Stanwyck for the next 60 seconds.
Mine's Maureen
Go to
O'Hara.
confession.
Really? I didn't say I was going to think badly of Barbara Stanwyck. I'm just going to think about how much I like BarbaraStanwyck. Joe, did you come out with any books this year? Well, we can mention them before we go.
I did not.
Okay, then moving on. If you didn't come out
Hey,
with
Si, did you come out with any books this year?
Oh, wait, I did. I am the with. I'm the with on a book. Steve Dawson, a beautiful book, How to Talk About Jesus with Anyone. It's all Steve Dawson, but it's with me, Cy Kellett, because it turns out, many people don't know this, am a wonderful typist.
No, I'm going to just say this.
Yes, I am.
Steve Dawson
Yeah.
is a genius in his field, in street apologetics.
He is, he's a trailblazer.
And with geniuses, you have this quality where, how can I put it, they're not necessarily linear.
That's why I would say Steve is not linear. That is correct.
So we found the most linear person in the building we could, Cy Kellett.
That's sad. That is sad. What a dysfunctional crew we are. All right, story number 5. Story number 6 of the top 6 news stories of the year. No one's going to the movies anymore. Story number 5, say what you will about it, but it's changing the world. Weight loss drugs, Ozempic, Mounjaro, all that. This is big news, actually. It's changing the whole medical profession.
Yeah. GLP-1s.
It isn't simply weight.
What do you want as a take on that?
It's not simply weight loss, by the way.
I'm not telling you your take, Joe. Come up with something. You got 5 minutes. Chris is going to talk. You better have something when we come
Some
back.
of the these things seem kind of extraordinary.
Really extraordinary.
They're helping people with addictive behaviors as well.
Right.
And I think they're
Diabetes
even,
was their original
diabetes,
purpose, and
of
they're
course.
very helpful to diabetics.
But now maybe even some heart issues as well, I think. Now, I do think there are people who are really benefiting from them. for the weight loss, where other methods have confounded them for a long time. And then I think there are some people who I guess like do the microdose, and I'm thinking, just get your eating under control, right?
I don't know about that. I don't know about microdose. Always makes me feel like anytime I hear the word microdose of anything, I feel like fad. It's a fad now. It's become a fad.
Right.
But I think these drugs are wonderful in many ways. Like they seem to be a genuine medical breakthrough. And we have a fear of wonder drugs because anytime there's a wonder drug in a movie, everyone's gonna end up a zombie or something. Like or the apes are gonna learn to talk. Like something bad is gonna happen because of this wonder drug. And not that it would be bad if the apes could talk. I've got nothing against apes.
I mean, it depends what they have to say.
Yeah, it's right, exactly, right. But like I know
They're like, we can watch Lawrence of Arabia on our phones, and you're just like, take the drugs away.
Apes.
We don't need their opinions.
Go back to running Netflix.
You
apes.
darn dirty apes.
They did it. All right. But like I know that we're programmed to by our dystopian fictions to really be suspect of wonder drugs. But aspirin, when it came out, was actually a wonder drug. It took a lot of suffering away from people.
Antibiotics,
wonder drugs. Like, it's a really good thing that is syphilis one that can be treated with antibiotics? Syphilis can be cured?
Carl Keating used to say that he was in favor of the 3 big A's: aspirin, antibiotics, and air conditioning.
The way you say antibiotics is fascinating.
Antibiotics. How else do you say it?
Joe, how do you say it? Why are we getting into
biology.
pronunciation? You two, can we just stipulate
Biotics,
the two of
antibiotics?
you do not share the same pronunciation of anything.
Well,
all right?
He said schism like 4 times earlier.
Everybody
That's
knows
great.
the word is schism. I have to back Joe up on that one. I just feel like, there is this thing of one thing I have noticed that people do make fun of these actresses who used to be super body positive. Oh, I am what I am. Accept me how. And now they're all appearing as these thin little waifs on their social media. And you're like, were you body positive, or were you just struggling with your weight like the rest of us? So I don't have anything bad to say about these drugs. I do have a feeling that we're always waiting for the other two, because I can remember Fen-Phen. Remember when Fen-Phen came out?
Oh yeah.
And
Apparently that was bad for your heart.
but that wrecked your heart. Yep. But
It took them a while to realize or announce that, although the signs were there.
well, yeah, but the signs for these GLP-1s and the other ones that are coming are that they are actually treating something that's now there is a kind of spiritual critique of weight, which is, we have to learn to live among plenty and discipline ourselves and all of that. I don't think any of that changes. I don't think the drug changes any of that. This is like, don't spiritualize everything. Some things are just, people's brains are wired differently. You're not a hero because you're thin. Like, I always feel like this about people who wake up early in the morning. They feel like they're better than other people. And you know what? A lot of people who wake up late in the morning invented the things that you're using today, or wrote the novels. Like, there's not a moral. This is not a moral category.
Tardiness is a moral category.
That doesn't have anything to do with whether you wake up early or not.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, the early morning people have definitely put a moral premium on being early to bed and early to rise.
Right.
The people who are late to bed and late to rise, getting the same amount of sleep, don't talk about how heroic they are for it.
Well, there's some people apparently who just don't need very much sleep. Catherine of Siena didn't.
She didn't.
No, she hardly slept. Apparently, Donald Trump doesn't sleep very much. I'm not putting those
Napoleon was said to not be much of a sleeper.
Yeah.
There's a trio, right? Let's put them on a mountain together. Catherine of Siena, Napoleon, and Donald Trump. Where's the sculptor who has failed to put these 3 together?
The patron of our studio behind you there, G.K. Chesterton, has that famous phrase, which I think doesn't really bear a ton of scrutiny, but it does probably apply here. There are no bad things, only bad uses of things.
Yeah.
I think there are some bad things. I think fentanyl's bad.
No.
No, fentanyl's not bad. There's plenty of good uses for fentanol as a legitimate
Okay,
painkiller.
Luke Bender, can you just clip that right there?
Yeah, fentanyl's not bad.
Fentanyl's great.
Yeah. Oh, that's it, man. Donald Trump's going to blow up your boat. You're in trouble, man. No, but I had to have a procedure done, and the doctor, he said, we're going to give you fentanyl. And he goes, he puts both hands up. He goes, not the street drug. We manage it very, like he thought that I was like gonna be like, what kind of doctor are you? But it is a good pain.
It's better.
Yeah,
What's wrong with the
prescription
natural
pain
stuff
medicine.
like opium,
Like heroin?
Opium or.
Yeah, but I mean, all of those opioids, the actual pain relief opiate function of it is good. The problem is that we don't manage it well, and we use it as a substitute for when the body actually just needs to suffer a little bit and the person needs to recover. Like, it's not actually bad to want to dull pain. The problem is when you become hooked on the dulling of pain in a way that is really unhealthy.
Isn't fentanyl almost immediately addictive? Maybe this is the difference between the street and the.
I don't know. They actually never gave it to me. They gave me the Michael Jackson drug, propofol. I had that instead.
The Michael Jackson drug.
Well, it's always going to be thought of that way. I actually think these medical breakthroughs are good things. I think that the Western medicine, because it's big business, but it's the only reason Western medicine is big business is because it works. The reason people are paying all this money is because a CAT scan works. It's not because it's all a scam. So I do think, yes, it's big business and these drug companies are big business and all that. But this whole thing, again, I will stress, started when Catholics invented the modern hospital in the Middle Ages and the modern university in the Middle Ages. We should be a little bit grateful for these things and not always think, oh, this is one more, one more kind of piece of the apocalypse is upon us. These are just good drugs.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the way something like the GLP-1s, to bring it back to that, work is in combination with all the other things you're trying to do anyway, and hopefully are doing. It makes it easier to do things like restrict food intake and everything else, and so you can actually build up the good habits that then, even once you get off the drug, hopefully those habits can stay in place. So it helps you do the things we want you to be doing.
Just say thank you to Jesus and accept that these drugs are here. And I mean it, say thank you to Jesus. Because I'm of the strong belief all of this flows from the incarnation. All these goods of science that we have in the modern world.
100% they do.
And I think more people should think about that the incarnation of God in the person of Jesus Christ changed the trajectory of the world. And none of this, look, the human race had been around for 100,000 years before Jesus got here. And 1,000 years after Jesus, all of a sudden we've got science developing? Yeah, you don't think it had something to do with the incarnation? It did. It all has to do with the incarnation. Here's story number, I don't know which number this is, but we're going backwards, so I'll call it 3.
Or 4.
Yeah, let's call it 4, because then I'll work my way to number 1 story. There seems to be a crisis of institutions around the world. South America, there's people no longer believe in the institutions. We're throwing politicians in jail. We're getting those politicians out of jail and throwing the other side's politicians in jail. This is happening in Europe. Massive loss of trust in the government of Great Britain over the course of this year. Loss of trust in the European Union. I don't think that anybody ever did have any trust in the government of China, but
they just convicted that poor man.
But what's his name? Jimmy Lai. Jimmy, God bless him.
He's a heroic man.
He is a heroic
Devout
man
Catholic.
and worth millions of dollars, and he didn't need any of this trouble in his life. He could have gone off and just lived comfortably. Instead, the evil Chinese communists have him in prison. And God bless Jimmy Lai. But what do you all make of this seeming shattering of the Western consensus that the world was wrapped up in since the Second World War?
That's a big question. I think it is undeniable that it's happening. I think that there's a clear sense in which the genie's out of the bottle in a way it can't be put back in. Mm-hmm. I think we don't have any idea what this means for the future of kind of post-institutional politics or foreign policy or anything like that. And I think people my age and older are really out of touch with just how much this is changing things. And I would include my own generation in that. Like,
something massive is happening.
Something bigger than we realize is happening.
Yeah, right.
And all of the things we sort of assumed about the world are now called into question or just outright rejected. By which I mean, think about just politically. Think about Donald Trump. Think about what's his name in New York?
Mamdani.
Mamdani. Thank you. They like Bernie Sanders, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, like all of these people representing a different way of doing politics from the traditional two-party system.
Right.
That's the absolute tip of the iceberg. You know, beneath that, you've got figures like Nick Fuentes. You've got people like just representing political ideologies we thought were impossible to have any kind of traction.
Becoming ascendant.
Yeah, becoming ascendant.
Right.
And this is the norm and not the exception of the future, is my argument.
I think probably,
and it's a norm and not the exception for two reasons. Number one, the traditional kind of powers that be were reinforced by the older institutions, you know, the handful of news channels that you would get,
Right.
the two-party system, all those things, their reputations in tatters, and in many cases rightly so. And then you have the rise of unfiltered, unchecked internet with everything from provocateurs to outright charlatans to genuine muckrakers and people exposing the truth about things.
Exactly.
And we have a terrible track record of discerning the good from the bad in those kind of contexts. And so the thing that's being kind of broadly labeled populism, in a lot of ways, is just the triumph of internet culture over 20th century political culture. And I think it's not only here to stay, we're only getting a sense of how much more radical it's about to get.
Chris?
one of the institutions, very broadly, of course, that people have lost interest in are colleges and universities.
Absolutely.
Many
I
of
should
them-
have said that. Yes.
Many
Chris.
of them are going out of business, especially like the liberal arts colleges, and the ones who are surviving either have substantial endowments or the reputation like the Ivies, or they're jettisoning the liberal arts and having a degree in AI or something like that, so they become trade schools. But back to what Joe is saying, and I just want to zero in on a little aspect of this, is just a dramatic decline in manners and dignity. So the people who represent these institutions, I'm probably going to irritate a number of our listeners, but this fellow who is our Secretary of Defense, Mr. Hegseth, he seems to me to be performative. And I'm trying to think, is his behavior consistent with what we want? Well, first of all, a man who wields so much authority and power and responsibility. But is it equal to the dignity of a cabinet position in the government of the United States? And of course, I could ask the same things about, the president himself. I'm thinking back in my lifetime, Richard Nixon was a fairly dignified fellow.
Publicly, his tapes were a little more uncouth.
Yeah,
No,
that's true.
But there should be a difference between your public and your private presentation. If you're a world leader, you shouldn't be the same person in public that you are in private.
I'm going to say Richard Nixon led a more moral life than Kennedy did, and that's
Kennedy probably would have told you that.
Yeah. But I mean, Dwight Eisenhower. I mean, that was a dignified fellow, I suppose.
Right.
The decline's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Let me be the devil's advocate here, and I mean that almost.
I'm just saying, by the way, manners is a small part of this, and maybe it's more of a symptom. Although I do think manners control things.
I do think when people are in a revolutionary mode, that there is a tendency to lose things like manners and comporting oneself with dignity. And I think the revolutionary mode that we're in is both hopeful and extremely dangerous.
I don't know why I keep zeroing on this Mr. Hegseth guy, but I'm going to give an example. He assembled the general and fleet grade officers of the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps several months ago to let them know the new sheriff in town and what thing. And he said something like, "No more beardos." So apparently some of the grooming standards had gotten lax in the United States Armed Forces. But that's just not a dignified thing to say to field or general grade and fleet grade officers. You can say, look, gentlemen, we are going to tighten up the grooming standards because it affects how we perform on the battlefield. You know, something to that effect. But he's just he's a performer.
Joe, you had a point you were going to make?
Well, I don't want to be called Beardo. No,
You are a beardo.
I was going to say, just on kind of the devil's advocate side, just to make sure this voice is represented in the conversation. You're going to have people listening right now who say, okay, you've got the mid-20th century politicians who knew how to present a polite, well-mannered face publicly, and then look at their track record of, you know, CIA-backed assassinations and the involvement in Vietnam and
Abortion.
the bombings of Cambodia and the approval of abortion. And so, yes,
Well, this is why I said Dwight
Eisenhower.
Eisenhower.
They knew which fork to use, but they're sanctioning mass murder. And wouldn't it be better to just have someone who speaks their mind, but they're a little uncouth, but they're not getting us involved in foreign wars or fill in the blank?
Yeah,
what would you say to someone who says that?
Well, the fact is, Donald Trump doesn't express himself with the dignity of a Ronald Reagan, but Reagan failed to get Roe v. Wade overturned. Donald Trump got it done. So I do think there is something to
Trump made better court appointments than Ronald Reagan did.
He most certainly did.
100%.
But a lot of that has to do with a more mature movement. The pro-life movement was much more mature under Donald Trump. It had decades of accomplishment under its belt. So you know, I don't think we can always. I will always be grateful for the fact that Donald Trump achieved the greatest pro-life victory of my lifetime. But, you know, there is the comporting oneself with dignity, and also that's the other side of this thing. And there's, but I don't think that I am impressed with those people who won't give him the credit for doing the one thing that we had been asking every politician to do since 1973. He did it. I give him some credit for that. But I don't want to be too much about Trump, because whenever we get into Trump, it's too emotional. We're going to need 15 years of distance before we can make an evaluation of the Trump presidency. But I think there is something to what Chris is saying, though. And I would say this. I do think there's a revolutionary fervor, and those are extremely dangerous. I think they're dangerous in the United States because we had this war, which was essentially a civil war, that we came out great in. But most revolutions end in disaster. I mean, if you really want a revolution, look at the history of political revolutions in the modern era, starting with the French Revolution, the revolutions of 1848 and 1848 and 1849, the Russian Revolution. Most of this is disaster. So
Spain and Mexico.
Yeah, we need to be aware that what usually follows liberalizing revolutions is a figure like Napoleon or Stalin. And I'm not comparing those two as men, but what I mean is the strong.
Well, they are both strong men.
Yeah,
Franco.
Yeah. I mean, Napoleon is a much greater person than Stalin, but you shouldn't really put people in categories like Stalin and Hitler and all that. And I didn't mean to do that, but you see what you get from revolutions is usually not what you started out thinking you were going to get.
I mean, yeah, the revolutionary is usually good at identifying problems and not solutions. And I think the track record shows that often they are right to be upset about whatever they're upset about in the status quo, and then have no idea what they're about to inaugurate and violently upending the table.
Right. And then you get directorates and things like that.
Well, you know, the State of the Union is going to be on next month, I guess. It's typically in January. And just, you know, watch the behavior in the gallery.
I know. It's something's wrong.
Yep.
One of the top 6 stories of the year we've already kind of covered, so I'm just going to mention it. The death of Pope Francis and the election of Pope Leo. That's one of the top 6 news stories in the world this year. And anything you need, or shall we move on? Okay.
No, I mean, it was obviously huge, but people know that.
Yeah. All right. Here are the 2 top stories of the year. I didn't.
Well, okay. Hang on a second. An American Pope is an unusual.
That is true.
Part of the story here.
That is true. The jury is still out. Do we like the American Pope?
And I know, strictly speaking, he's not been in America for a very long time, and I actually think that probably influenced the fact that he was elected. But it's still a funny thing. I never, ever. I mean, when a German Pope got elected, I was surprised. I never, ever thought I was going to see an American Pope, ever.
No, I certainly didn't. I thought that
the Well, I believe it was the bishop from Lincoln who said he met the Pope and he didn't have to explain where Lincoln was for the first time in meeting a Pope.
Well, if your
or
town is
remember
called
where
Lincoln
Nebraska
and it's
was.
in the Midwest, you got to say which state.
Well, the other thing is, as Joe observed, I think a while back, I feel quite confident this is the first Pope who I feel very confident is aware of Catholic answers.
Oh, you think he knows about us?
How could he not?
Oh, wait, I want to say
I mean,
hi.
he has
Hi,
been
Pope
in
Leo.
South America.
Happy New
Yeah.
Year, Pope Leo, because it's already the New Year over there. He's 8 hours
I'll
ahead of
do
us.
you one
Happy
better.
New Year, Pope. Get to bed, you crazy Pope. What are you up so late for? All right. I got to give.
I think there's really good reason to believe that J.D. Vance, who I believe has shared a Catholic Answers article before,
Right.
Knows Catholic Answers exists as well. Depending on how the next presidential election goes, you could have the first time in history where both the Pope and President are aware of the work of Catholic Answers. So I kind of think 2025 might be the year Catholic Answers won the internet.
I feel like we should get some kind of bonus here if the Pope ever mentions Catholic Answers. I think we should get a commitment from Chris that the whole staff gets a bonus if the Pope ever mentions Catholic Answers.
Deal.
I think we should get an online campaign
Yeah.
to get the Pope to mention Catholic Answers in a good way.
All right, number 2 story of the year. You may not agree with the order that I put these two in. Number 2 story of the year, migration and border issues. It seems that the whole world, I think Americans sometimes think it's just us. The Chilean election was just one, not entirely, but in large part because Chileans are sick of illegal immigration into Chile. We've got illegal immigration issues all around the world, or immigration issues in general. I shouldn't just say illegal immigration issues. Europe, everywhere. This is a huge story. I feel like this is one that Catholics struggle with, frankly, because this is not one that we can be like the world in. We must be different than the world in our response to migration issues. And I do agree it's important to say countries have a right to defend their borders, right to defend their cultures. All of that is important. Love of country requires that of us. But as Catholics, the first thing we got to ask ourselves is, what is my role as a Catholic in this one? It's just so obvious to me that this requires a unique response from every Catholic. And it was one that it's not going to fit with anyone's political agenda.
Do you think that the USCCB gave a unique and thorough response to this? I mean, in November they crafted some kind of what looked like,
statement.
Yeah, it was a reactive document to the action of the Trump administration and in particular ICE.
I
wasn't impressed with their statement, but
Yeah.
I liked their statement, said something about it on my channel, Seamus Popery, and people really took it to task and pointed out in a lot of areas where they wanted to see the bishops say more and that they didn't. I will say this. Number one, it's hard on a statement on an issue like immigration to fairly present all of the different nuances on the issue, because I think for most people, if you really think about it, there is a difference between, the person who is, say, running drugs into the country and like a child whose parents have come to the U.S. and is looking for work and they've grown up here and, now they're 20, and they've known the U.S. for the last 18 years. And obviously those two people, both in the country illegally, not the same moral category, not the same, those are just such different issues. It's someone who conflates those two in either direction is not doing a very thoughtful analysis. And so to speak to the issue of immigration in all of its nuances.
That's right, Joe.
Is tricky to do.
It's very
Yes.
difficult. You're right. It's not like talking about abortion, for example. It is so much
Right.
more morally nuanced and complex.
It's exactly what my second point is just going to be. It's prudential in a way something like abortion isn't.
Right.
So you can, I think the thing to do is to capture the basic moral principles and to trust the lay Catholics to put those principles in play.
Yeah.
And I think it is okay to say things like, Jesus at the Last Judgment promises to say things like, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. And so someone who takes an attitude that is just entirely hostile to immigrants is taking an attitude that is hostile to Jesus Christ.
Be careful about that. Don't do that. Like that's what I want to say to Catholics is you've been given this faith and we've had 2,000 years now to reflect on the words of Jesus. don't go, just throw out the core of it because it's a hot political issue right now.
Immigrant is,
but that doesn't tell us how many people should be allowed to come in.
No, it doesn't tell us
legally,
anything about
and
that.
It doesn't
right.
tell us.
That's right, Joe.
But it tells us a certain approach to have.
Get our operations officer, John Sorensen, on this show, who lives out in Boulevard and is a couple of miles away from the Mexican border, and he is deeply, deeply grateful because now it's safe for him to walk around in the wilderness by his home and not encounter violent gangs.
Because the border patrol.
Yeah, because the border patrol
control.
it has tightened up that border.
Right. Right. And if you see border chaos, absolute chaos here near the border that we have gone through, you can't be in favor of that. There's no sane person that's in favor of that lawless Wild West that it's become. So it's good to see that reformed. But I just mean the disposition of the heart has to be open to the other, loving, and realizing, look, it's a very complex world. There's a million different reasons why a person does something like cross a border. And I just would say, don't let your heart be turned dark on something that Jesus so clearly spoke about. I mean, there's a lot of different politics. It's a very subtle issue but the issue of the heart is the one I think that we need to address. You just can't shut out the words of Jesus and think that that's okay.
Yeah. I think the Catechism is a good bit of spiritual reading. I'd recommend here. I believe it's paragraphs 22, 41, and 42, where it just talks about how should states approach the issue of immigration. What are the duties that immigrants are owed to their newfound country? How should citizens, approach the issues of governance, et cetera? So again, you're not going to be able to capture all the nuances in a paragraph, but as far as paragraphs go, I think these ones do a pretty good job of getting to the spiritual gist, and then you can sort of build out from there and say, okay, what does it look like in 2025 in the U.S. given all of the other situations that we're dealing with?
I think that's enough on immigration. I do want to get to the number one story of the year. If you think about the world and the way the world is changing and the way what's going on in the world, do either of you have a guess at what I'm about to say is the number one news story of the year?
I know what it is.
You know what it is?
Without looking at the email, I don't know what it is.
Oh wait, I forgot I sent you an email. I forgot. I sent an email. I apologize. I asked an AI to tell me the top 6 news stories of the year, and the AI said the top news story of the year was AI. I'm not suspicious of that at all. I actually think this is the number one news story of the year.
I have 2 things I want to say about AI.
Go ahead.
These massive data centers that are being built, that's what they're called, right? Data centers.
Joe would call them data centers, but yeah.
Okay. So quite apart from all the water and electricity that they use, which I think is going to be a problematic.
An issue,
yeah. Imagine the ratio of square footage of a building to the number of people who actually work inside of it.
Oh,
and I think this is a sort of a terrifying figure to contemplate when we think about how few people are actually employed. And that segues to the second thing. And it's something that Pedro Gonzalez wrote in the most recent issue of Chronicles magazine. It's 2 sentences. The ladder that previous generations climbed to prosperity is being put through a virtual wood chipper. And that is apart from the other evils AI is facilitating, like the creation of a new, far more sophisticated security state. AI is being used to surveil us and make us even more addicted to and dependent on technology at the expense of what makes us free and human. All the jobs, for example, that entry-level people did, whether it was in a law firm or wherever, are being surrendered to or abrogated to AI. So how you learned your trade, if you were any kind of, I use the word clerical broadly, meaning anything in an office. If you were any kind of a trade that gets practiced in an office, you learned it by doing those sort of entry-level duties, whatever they were, and then you grew, quite apart from just the joy of, working with other people that you get from working in an office as well. But all those jobs are going to be going away. So there's something very anti-human about it, and I think it's It is manifested in that strange ratio between square footage and people actually doing work.
That's a really arresting image.
It's
That's an
terrifying.
arresting image.
It's terrifying. And then how AI is taking over all the entry-level work.
Joe?
That same article, he shares a tweet from Pope Leo XIV, which begins, technological innovation can be a form of participation in the divine act of creation. It carries an ethical and spiritual weight. For every design choice expresses a vision of humanity.
Oh, that's brilliant.
I know. I
Yep.
was really struck by that. I actually think if we were to contemplate that, a lot of the conversations we actually had, even on this show, something as simple as the movie theater versus watching Lawrence of Arabia on your phone versus having the movie on TV while you're doing something else on your phone. Like, all of those are expressions of a vision of humanity, whether we think about them that way or not.
Mm-hmm.
They say what kind of person we believe ourselves to be and what the relationship of the person is to technology. And these are cooperations in this divine act of creation. That's arresting and frankly kind of alarming, because I think we are being led by people who lack that vision entirely, who have put, at last I saw, $1.5 trillion this year. It's expected to go up to $2 trillion next year.
So much
of money just dumping into this kind of false vision of the future. And I've said this before, but I want to underscore this. At the heart of the reason people are spending trillions, literally trillions of dollars on AI, is because they don't believe that the human soul is unique, and they believe they can achieve sentience if they just throw enough money at artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's crazy. It does. I would say go back, read the Tower of Babel story. It's like 8 lines, and we keep repeating it. So go back and read the Tower of Babel story. Chris Check, thank you very much.
Happy New Year, Si.
Happy New Year. Thank you. Joe Heschmeyer, thank you very much.
Happy New Year as well.
That will do it for us for the day, for the month, for the year. When we see you again, it'll be 2026. Looking forward to it. Don't forget, tomorrow is Our Lady's Day, so if you can, make it to Mass.
No, you have to go. Not you have to go.
Sick people don't have to go.
Okay. All right.
And I would like to apologize to the AI for everything that Chris and Joe said. That'll do it for us. See you next year, God willing, right here on Catholic Answers Live.